Comic Boom.
Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Flash Forward #1, straight from the pages of Heroes in Crisis. Now, I don't want you to panic, because we all know Heroes in Crisis was not a particularly good series. I mean, what it did to Wally West was really unforgivable. But this is the art of putting lipstick on a pig, people, and that's what this series is meant to do, we hope, to bring some kind of redemption to Wally West. And that's what Flash Forward is all about. Right from the pages, ripped from the pages of Heroes in Crisis. Wally West, this issue is with him. Basically, he's in jail. He's in Blackgate prison. He's awaiting trial for the murder of the 13 individuals that were murdered in Heroes in Crisis. They were murdered accidentally by him because he sort of exploded with the Speed Force. And so he's pack your bags, people, because Wally West, he's going on a guilt trip here, and he's feeling all guilty and upset, and he's lonely, and he's really upset. And let me first start off by saying that the cover artist here is Doc Shaner. It's a decent cover. I'm not really sure if I'm a fan of Doc Shaner's artistic rendition of the Flash, but it's not bad. Brett Booth is the interior artist. And I'm not a fan of Brett Booth's art, but I think it works here. Scott Lobdell, the writer, has done a good job here. So overall, I'm going to recommend this title. I like it, and I like where things are headed. I like the ending of this issue. I'm really excited to see where Wally West ends up in the multiverse, because it sounds like Scott Lobdell, the writer, has got quite an adventure plan for Wally West, and I think he is going to be redeemed. What I really like about this is they make it clear, Scott Lobdell, this first issue, whether Scott Lobdell likes it or not, he's got to deal with the garbage of Heroes in Crisis, and he does. So Wally West there, he's all depressed, he's in Blackgate prison, and to sort of reinforce his depression, Linda Park shows up, flowing out of the pages of Heroes in Crisis. He's in jail in Blackgate. Linda Park shows up. Linda Park, of course, doesn't really remember him. This is not the Linda Park that he basically married, fell in love with, and had children with. They're lost in time. He's told that they never existed, so he's still depressed. Linda Parks is trying to encourage him to try to defend himself because he didn't deliberately intend to kill the 13 people at Sanctuary in Heroes in Crisis, but he'll have none of it. He's down and out. He wants to plead guilty and just, do the time for the crime that he insists that he did, even though he didn't really do it on purpose. Well, he's in Blackgate prison. It's already overflowing as it is, and of course, not surprisingly, he's got a suppression collar on, which suppresses his superpowers. He confronts other supervillains that are also in prison. They have suppression collars on as well. A villain by the name of Girder tries to attack and kill him. And then, lo and behold, while this attack on Wally West's life is occurring in prison, suddenly Tempus Fuginaut shows up. Who's Tempus Fuginaut? Fuginaut, Tempus Fuginaut. Am I saying that right? And anyways, I'm going to call him Tempus. Tempus is a multiversal being who sort of polices the bleed, and that is the space in between the various Earths of the multiverse. So we have 52 Earths, and the bleed is the space in between the various Earths in the multiverse. Well, Tempus Fuginaut, he sort of polices that, and he's there because he needs Wally West's help, and he believes Wally West has basically a destiny to basically help save the multiverse. Tempest had his first appearance in Sideways issue 1, I believe, which was the New Age of Heroes line that DC came out with after DC's Metal came out. And that was sort of a darker line of comics. Sideways was ultimately canceled, but Tempest was originally introduced there, and he's this sort of multiversal being. In any event, Tempest wants Wally West to basically help him prevent the ongoing deterioration of the darkening of the multiverse. Because what's happening is that the Dark Multiverse, and when you think of the Dark Multiverse, think of the place where the Batman Who Laughs is from. The Dark Multiverse is what every time we experience regret and loss and pain and suffering, and we make some mistakes, and that has an effect on time, effect on the multiverse. A darker multiversal world is essentially created. And the way it used to work, apparently, is that even though maybe the darker worlds in the multiverse would decay and deteriorate over time, and that's the way things normally worked, is that, so even though there was a darker multiverse that was constantly creating darker multiversal worlds, ultimately they decayed over time, and there was a system of checks and balances in place that assured that the darker aspects of what would be created flowing out of the normal multiverse would essentially form part of the dark multiverse, but eventually decay and be destroyed. Well, apparently there's a darker world in the multiverse that is not dying. It's not decaying. It's refusing to be destroyed. It's not decaying or deteriorating, and whoever is in control of that darker world is having some influence on the multiverse, and there's a darkness, and the darker aspects of the dark multiverse is creeping into our multiverse, and that's creating havoc on multiversal worlds. And that's what Tempus wants Wally West to help him with. And apparently Wally West is special in some way, and this is what I like about it, is Wally West is special because Wally West is unmoored to the multiverse. He's unmoored to the world. So, and that makes a lot of sense because, and I like the thought that Scott Lobdell has put into this, because we know that Wally West is unique. Wally West is a product of rebirth. Wally West was lost in time, and Wally West is really the last connection that we have in this DC universe now that's really screwed up. We've got continuity that's a little bit all over the place. I know eventually it's going to tie all together. I get that. But right now, the DC universe really does feel to be in a state of flux. Eventually everything will be explained, but until that time, Wally West is still an aberration. Wally West is still a man out of his time. Wally West is still a man who's lost his wife and children to another time that has been lost. And so he's really untethered to our Earth Designate Zero. What exactly is Wally West? What's his significance? We don't really know, but Tempus knows that Wally West is special, and he wants Wally West to be his hero, to help him. Tempus is violating his own rules and violating his own rules again to get another hero to help him. Of course, his first hero that he interacted with was Sideways, but that series was canceled, and it'll be interesting to see if Sideways shows up in this series. But in any event, what we're left with is Tempus recruiting Wally West, whether Wally West likes it or not, to basically help him battle this darkness that's taken over the universe. At one point, Tempus says to Wally West, who is feeling still so guilty about his actions in Heroes in Crisis, he says to Wally, "You think that your actions disqualify you, but people everywhere have regret, recriminations, rage, revenge, loss, and hate. Nexus points where a world's destiny might change. It is all shunted to the darker universe, the place of decay, where entire worlds are real, but they're fleeting. You see that they are meant to break down, to be swallowed by the dark." And that's the normal course of things. But one world refuses to die, and it's dark, and it's infecting, and there's a darkness infecting the rest of the multiverse. Tempus somehow uses his power to give Wally West his old costume back. He's back as the Flash. He's got his full powers. Wally West doesn't think that he's going to be much use to Tempus, but Tempus completely disagrees, and suddenly Wally West finds himself on Earth-23, and who is in front of him but Calvin Ellis, the President of the United States on Earth-23, who also happens to be Superman. He's the black Superman of Earth-23, and he looks like, and this Calvin Ellis, this Superman of Earth-23, he seems to be like he's really battling, and he looks like he's about to die, like he's really badly beaten. So this issue ends on that kind of cliffhanger. I'm really excited about this. Hey guys, a couple of afterthoughts, after comments in regard to Flash Forward #1. The Mobius Chair shows up here. The Mobius Chair. Now what's the Mobius Chair? The Mobius Chair is like Metron's chair. Metron's a new god. Remember at the end of Darkseid War, the Darkseid was defeated, and basically Owlman basically was sitting on the... Owlman was going to sit on the Metron chair, but he ends up getting killed by, we think, Dr. Manhattan. And then Metron was killed, the Owlman was killed, ultimately even Pandora was killed. But the Mobius Chair, we've not seen the Mobius Chair since the end of Darkseid War, as far as I know. Now what's interesting is that the Darkseid War took place just before the DC Rebirth one-shot. And so the Mobius Chair, gotta remember, there's only one Mobius Chair in all the multiverse. Because remember, there's only one set of new gods. There's only one Apocalypse. There's only one new Genesis in all the multiverse. And so it's unique. The Mobius Chair is unique. And whoever sits in the Mobius Chair gains all-knowing knowledge of the multiverse. Remember when Batman sat on the Mobius Chair? He asked the Mobius Chair who was the Joker. And of course, it revealed to him that there are 3 Jokers, and ultimately we're going to be getting a 3 Joker storyline. But I digress. The Mobius Chair shows up here in the pages of Flash Forward. Now, what makes that exciting is that there's a Thanagarian sort of hunter in this particular issue that basically finds the Mobius Chair, sits in it, hoping to acquire vast power and knowledge, and ends up they can't handle all the knowledge, and basically their mind just gets fried and their body gets fried, and basically they're killed. So it would appear that only very particularly worthy people can sit in the Mobius Chair. Now, is Wally West an individual that can survive sitting in the Mobius Chair? That's what it's hinting at. Because remember what Tempus called Wally West. He basically said that Wally West is basically untethered. He's untethered to the timeline or to the multiverse. He's unmoored, I believe was his exact phrase. Since Wally West is unmoored, Wally West is truly a genuine survivor of the original or the timeline that took place before DC Rebirth. So probably he's a survivor of the timeline even before the Dr. Manhattan came along and the whole Doomsday Clock scenario was playing out. So clearly this flash forward is going to play into all the reconciliations of all these timelines that they're talking about. Scott Snyder talked on Twitter that he's saying, don't worry guys, he's assuring us fans that everything's going to make sense. Bendis has hinted that don't worry, everything's going to make sense. Apparently they really have been having DC editorial meetings, as shocking as it sounds given the fact that DC Universe seems to be really disconnected right now. But in any event, fingers crossed. How does the Mobius Chair fit into all this? Will Wally West end up sitting in the Mobius Chair gaining all knowledge? And we all know that if Wally West sits on the Mobius Chair, he's going to ask, where are my children? Where is my wife? Where is my wife Linda? Where are my children? And if he sits in that chair and he asks that question, the Mobius Chair will answer him, because it did answer Batman when Batman asked, who is the Joker? And so this stuff's really heating up. So it's really whetting my appetite in terms of what Wally West is going to ask when he ultimately sits in that Mobius Chair. Will he survive the experience? Of course he will. Scott Lobdell here has done a really good job in this opening issue. It's really whetting my appetite. I'm happy, guys. Check it out. Follow me on Twitter, Metropolis40. Leave your comments below. And until next time, Comic Boom, out.